So I gotta be honest, this is probably the worst saga in all of One Piece. Now, before we get into my thoughts and everything and my review on this whole saga, if you could go ahead and like and subscribe on the video. I'm trying to get up there, trying to get paid for this shit, so subscribe and like would be kind of dope. Now, if you've watched my previous One Piece videos, you know that I pretty much enjoyed every saga, at least a good amount, you know? So obviously I'm being super dramatic because even if this was the worst, absolute, just most garbage saga so far, they're all really good. So it's kind of like being the worst of the best, if that makes any sense. So even if I was to say this saga is complete dog shit, it would still be pretty good when you compare it to all the other ones and how good the other ones have been so far, at least. Now, thankfully, I can be completely honest, and I don't think this is a bad saga at all. But when I was posting about this on TikTok and kind of talking about my overall excitement towards jumping to Skypiea and all this stuff, I had so many comments on TikTok of people saying, oh, it's so slow, it's the worst arc, you know, be prepared to stop watching the show. So many people saying, oh, this is where I jumped off, all this negativity, really. But my whole thing is like, what the fuck were you guys talking about? Because this shit's pretty fire. But then I'm also kind of agreeing with some of the stuff that was said. So that's my biggest hurdle in this review, is just giving my own opinion and then not being salted by everyone else's opinions that were already kind of pushed on me before I had even watched this saga. So the way we're going to structure this review of the saga is just by doing each arc individually, pretty much. So we're going to be reviewing the Jaya and Skypiea arcs, obviously. However, I did end up watching the G8 filler arc. I'm pretty much going to never watch a filler arc unless everyone tells me to. This is one of the first ones that people were just commenting, please watch it, you know, it's worth watching, all this stuff. So I figured might as well. I don't think G8 was that long, so it was cool, but we'll touch on that when we get to that. But just keep that in mind. If there is a certain filler arc that you guys would want me to see, let me know. I obviously will just skip it unless someone tells me to watch it. So if there's a good one that's coming up or a good one that you think I might like, let me know, comment that below, and maybe I'll watch it. So first off, the Jaya arc. So first off, I really like this arc just because it is the starting arc of this whole overarching saga. And while this first arc is really short, I did find it extremely fun. Bellamy was an extremely cool kind of pit stop character. I think we might be seeing more of him. I don't know, I just feel like he's been in a decent amount of small episodes here and there to where I feel like he could pop up eventually again. We also actually do get a good amount of Blackbeard kind of hints throughout this arc and then a few arcs prior to this one too. So that's really dope. Obviously, I'm super excited to have Blackbeard fully join like the roster of characters and everything and have him kind of be the antagonist or whatever he is. I don't even know what he technically is in the show, but you know what I'm saying. And that's the big thing, is this show has so much foreshadowing. Like, they're pushing Blackbeard in small little scenes here, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't show up for at least another 100-ish episodes at least. So foreshadowing is pretty crazy. Now, obviously the Jaya arc mainly serves as a jumping off point for the Skypiea arc. It's pretty much all laying the groundwork of the lore of Skypiea, the idea of Skypiea, this whole like mythological world in the sky that's also a sea and all this stuff. So I think as an isolated arc alone, it's kind of hard to judge this arc because it's so dependent on Skypiea being really good. So while I did like it, and I do think it was really good, I think it kind of falls down a little bit because of that. It pretty much solely relies on another arc to help it be good and help it pay off and everything. So it's a little bit hard to judge. I will say though, this is probably the most foreshadowy arc I've seen so far, where I feel like everything that they're foreshadowing with Bellamy, Blackbeard, Skypiea, Nolan, all these things that they're kind of pushing on to the next arc and then arcs that are probably gonna come up after that, it just seems like this is like the foreshadowing arc. Pretty well, I guess every arc's kind of a foreshadowing arc. This one just seems like it hits a little bit harder. It's a good arc. It's a little bit hollow in my opinion, but like I said, it relies on Skypiea, so I'm not going to judge it too hard. Overall, it was solid for what it was. Next is the big chunk of this review, and that's Skypiea. Now, this is the main kind of the meat and potatoes of this review. This is the, you know, the large chunk of this saga is Skypiea. Now, I want to say Skypiea is really interesting, but it's also really frustrating because I completely and fully understand all of the hate that was given towards this saga when it was being talked about on TikTok and I was mentioning it and all this stuff. I fully understand why and what people were saying now. And I will say, just due to all the comments I was getting, it was hard for me to start this saga without, or this arc at least, without having kind of a negative vibe. You know, there's so much negativity of me jumping into this arc, so it was kind of hard for me to jump in with positive vibes, but I guess my expectations were pretty low when I started, so that's good. Now, I'd like to think that Skypiea is this huge, impactful arc on the saga, but I'm not sure in the 1000 episodes of One Piece if Skypiea truly has a lasting impact on the saga and the characters and the overarching story of Luffy finding the One Piece and all this stuff. And I feel like you could look at some parts of Skypiea and just in my brain, not watching the rest of One Piece, it feels a lot like filler at times, which is really weird because it has this whole like idea of lore behind the Sky Island and all this stuff, which in most filler arcs, like if you watch Naruto filler, they'll take you to like a whole different location that isn't important to the story and give you all this backstory on characters that will never show up again and all this stuff. And that pretty much happens here. Like, there's so much backstory and so much lore given to these characters that we really only see for this arc. At least, obviously, I'm dumb because I'm not finished with One Piece, so these characters could come back in the biggest way possible in like Wano or something crazy, and I'm just talking out of my ass here, but maybe I am. Off rip, this arc is long as hell. And from what I know is the longest arc I've had in One Piece, and also the 4th longest arc in all of One Piece. So yeah, it's a big boy. It's a big boy. Pause. And that's why it took me so long to just get this review out for you guys. Honestly, it just took me forever to watch this saga, or this arc actually, which we'll touch on in a little bit. Now, the Alabasta arc, in my opinion, felt long, but it didn't feel slow or fast. Like, it felt like in the middle between slow and fast, if that makes any sense. But I'll be honest, Skypiea makes Alabasta look like a fucking 15-second YouTube ad or something, because this shit felt like I was watching it for weeks, and I'm pretty sure I was watching it for weeks actually, so that's probably why it felt like that. And it's weird because Skypiea is not that much longer than Alabasta, but it feels like 3 times the length of that arc. I don't know why, it just feels so freaking long. Pause. Now obviously I'm just focusing on the length of the arc, not really the quality. Point is, just before we get into it, I just want to explain that this arc was a chore to get through. Without like sugarcoating it, it was a chore to get through. Now, I did like it, and I did have fun watching this arc, because this arc does a ton of world building and character development, in my opinion, in a small frame of time. At least in the real world, they're only really gone for like 3 days or something like that. So all these episodes and character development is kind of compact in terms of how long it's actually taking up in like One Piece world time. And I do think it's pretty dope how they're able to basically create a whole new world with a whole new cast of characters and a completely different lore, and just basically essentially create a whole new story so fast, so quickly, with such depth, and I don't want to say precision because I don't feel like it was precise necessarily, but with just the amount of depth that this arc has, it's pretty insane. And it manages to hold all this lore and development and world building and all this stuff together pretty well, in my opinion. I mean, we essentially leave the Grand Line and venture off into a completely different environment where we know pretty much nothing. We know nothing about the power systems. The way the characters act are completely different. The terrain, the land, everything is all different from what we know so far in the world of One Piece. And it's just a really cool idea to have them completely flip everything over and just be like, hey, I know you think we're on the Grand Line, but we're off that shit now. So, and there is a lot of good action scenes throughout this whole arc. There's tons of great action, and it is packed with a lot of good content. So it does keep you kind of moving forward on your little hamster wheel of anime, I guess. But I will say the first few episodes of Skypiea, while they're fun and exciting, they took their sweet ass time gathering all the information and everything for this arc. And I do think that could have been them just trying not to confuse the audience. Really easy and manageable to digest, basically, and them not be just completely fucked over. I will say, while I liked Eneru as a villain, I don't think he really did it for me. I enjoyed his powers. I thought he was a very fitting bad guy for the region and the kind of world that we were fighting in. But the beef between Eneru and the Straw Hats is pretty much non-existent. They're really only fighting because of the circumstances that they're in. They really have no major beef with each other other than, hey, Eneru's probably a bad dude. Straw Hats want to get the fuck out of here. Eneru's kind of blocking them in a way, so whatever. It just felt like Eneru and Luffy were both fighting to defend their sides and their teams, but really had no motivation other than that to really fade each other pretty much. I don't know, not a great villain. I think I liked Crocodile more than Eneru, if I'm honest. Overall, Eneru was a bit of a disappointment, but I wasn't so disappointed where I feel like his character ruined the arc or substantially dropped it in quality or anything like that. I just wasn't feeling him really, so. And then this arc ends with the team pretty much dropping down back to the Grand Line as if Skypiea never happened. And that's kind of why it feels like a filler arc to me, at least so far, because they really just kind of move the fuck on and don't really do anything to reflect on Skypiea yet. Obviously, I am not super far or that much further into the story, but it just doesn't feel like a super long lasting arc that has this insane ramifications for the world or really anything, so that kind of sucks. All right, so the final piece here is the G8 filler arc. Now, up to this point, I pretty much skipped all of the filler arcs. I skipped all of them. But because, again, I had so many comments of people saying, dude, you gotta watch G8, watch it, it's worth watching, all this shit, I decided why not. It wasn't too long, so I watched it, and I did like it quite a bit. Now, obviously, this arc isn't needed. It's a filler arc for a reason, but it is fun, and it's a kind of just a group of goofy-ass episodes with our characters. And I think it does bring down some of the insane, like, war propaganda stuff from Skypiea and just makes everything a little bit more calm in tone and comedic. There's so many funny moments in this arc, and also a lot of cool, like, interesting side characters that are also introduced here, so that's dope. I have heard some people say that canon characters and filler characters tend to swap in and out, and there might be a filler character that ends up being canonized later on or something like that. So I don't know if that was hinted at here, but I do like the cast of characters and the side characters that were introduced here quite a bit. I did like the villain a lot, or not the villain, like the general guy for the G8 crew, I guess. I think the only other person that we've gotten that's like a calm, very precise villain is like Smoker. or whatever that guy's name is. But even then, he's not really calm. He's just kind of like agitated or frustrated the whole time. Overall, super solid arc, especially for a filler. Again, if you guys have any filler arcs you recommend, comment them below so I can peep them. Most likely, if a lot of people tell me to watch one, I will probably end up watching it. Overall, this saga is really good, and I did find it to be pretty enjoyable, but I'd be lying if I said this was better than the East Blue saga, honestly. I still, so far, think East Blue is probably the best, then Alabasta, and then Skypiea, or Sky Island saga, whichever one this is. But East Blue and Alabasta go back and forth for me quite a bit sometimes, so I'm not super sold on East Blue being the best, but that's just kind of where I'm at right now. There's this thing where East Blue's first beginning arcs and episodes aren't amazing, but then it slowly just ramps up and gets better and better, and the exact opposite for Alabasta, where I actually liked the first few little arcs and episodes, and then I feel like I kind of got tired in the middle and towards the end. It's kind of a little bit how I feel here with Skypiea. I was super excited to get into it. I really liked the ramp off that Jaya gave to the Skypiea and Sky Island and everything, but I just felt like it just fell flat a little bit, and it didn't really use any of the energy that Jaya had built up. And at any point when I did get really excited in Skypiea, either a really cool episode ending or something like that, I just feel like it completely tore my excitement down every time, just because it would hit me with a just really slow next episode or something like that. I think eventually if Sky Island ends up having bigger impact on the story, then I might have more of respect for it and might like it a little bit more even, just because that means that this journey into Skypiea and all this stuff was well worth it, and obviously had, you know, real world impacting on the One Piece universe and whatever. But as of right now, if I had to ink East Blue, Alabasta, Skypiea is for sure third place. Like, it's easy bottom. There's
whoa, pause.
Don't mean anything sexual by that, but it's easy last place pretty much. So Sky Island, the worst saga, or Skypiea, whatever, is Sky Island, Skypiea, Saga, whatever, the worst saga in One Piece? Yeah, as of right now, for me, it is the worst saga in One Piece. Obviously, this is just me reviewing the 3 sagas that I actually did enjoy all of them. You know, I didn't hate Skypiea. I wasn't angry with myself for watching it. I didn't stop watching One Piece. Actually, I did take a few breaks just because it was so fucking long, but I didn't, you know, I'm not dropping One Piece or anything like that because of this arc, or it was so bad or something. It was fine. It was fine. It just wasn't as good as East Blue or Alabasta. So I can totally see how some people get to Sky Island and they just drop off. They stop watching One Piece, or they're just not really into it. I totally get that. It's a really sluggish section of the show. But I think it's in a point where if you're already at Sky Island, you're already kind of into the show, so chances are you'll stick through it. So I'm hoping that if anyone has stopped at Sky Island or Skypiea and they see this video, keep watching. I'm a little bit further now than that, obviously, so I will say I'm still enjoying One Piece thoroughly, and I am by no means discouraged from watching the show after watching this saga. But that's my thoughts. And what are your guys' favorite saga in One Piece? What's your least favorite saga in One Piece? Let me know. I appreciate all you guys watching to the end of the video. It means a lot to me. So go ahead, like, subscribe on this thing, and have a good one.